The rain tapped a steady, sleepy rhythm against the window pane, sealing the house in a gray, comfortable gloom. In the corner of the living room, Elena drifted in a rare, midday slumber. A glossy magazine had slipped from her fingers, landing softly on the rug, and her reading glasses were perched precariously on the bridge of her nose. Elena never napped. Napping was for people who didn't have a mortgage to worry about, or emails to answer, or a life that felt like a constant uphill sprint. But today, the exhaustion had finally won. The quiet in the house wasn't peaceful, it was heavy. It was the sound of a woman who had forgotten how to stop moving, finally running out of fuel. Hold on just a moment before we continue. If this story is touching something in you, please take a second to like this video and subscribe. It genuinely makes a difference and helps me bring you more stories like this one. I also want to hear from you. Write in the comments, where are you right now? Are you tucked away in a peaceful village where stars fill the sky, or surrounded by the hum and glow of a city that never sleeps? Upstairs, 17-year-old Leo stood at the top of the landing. He held his breath, listening. No television, no clatter of dishes, just the rain and the rhythmic ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall. He crept down the stairs, skipping the third step that always groaned under weight. He knew this house better than he knew himself. Every creak, every draft, every shadow. Living alone with his mother for the last decade had made him observant. He noticed the new lines around her eyes and the way her shoulders stayed tense even when she laughed. He paused at the bottom of the stairs, looking at her. Asleep, she looked softer, younger. The worry lines smoothed out, reminding him of the mom from years ago, before she started working double shifts, before she convinced herself she was better off alone. Leo felt a knot of anxiety tighten in his stomach. He was about to do something reckless. Something that could either fix everything or blow up in his face. He slipped into the kitchen, his socks sliding on the linoleum. He pulled his phone from his pocket. The screen glowed in the dim light. The text message had been sent 20 minutes ago. She's out cold. If you're coming, come now. Leo stared at the screen, half hoping for a cancellation. But there was no reply, just the read, receipt. He got to work. He didn't make coffee. Coffee was for rushing. He found the ceramic teapot, the one she saved for company, and filled the kettle. He moved with practiced stealth, arranging a plate of almond biscotti, the kind she bought but never ate because she said they were too nice for a Tuesday. He checked his watch. 20:15 p.m., a car door slammed outside. Softly but distinct, Leo froze. He looked toward the living room. Elena shifted, mumbling something into the cushion, but didn't wake. Leo let out a breath and hurried to the front door, opening it before the visitor could knock. Julian stood on the porch, rain darkening the shoulders of his wool coat. He looked older than Leo remembered. There was a little more silver in his beard, a little more hesitation in his posture. He held a bouquet of wildflowers, wrapped in brown paper, nothing fancy, but bright enough to cut through the gray afternoon. Aishi. Julian started, his voice a rough whisper. Asleep. Leo confirmed, ushering him in. She won't hear a thing? Julian stepped inside, wiping his feet carefully on the mat. He looked around the hallway as if entering a shrine. It's been 3 years, Leo, he said quietly. You've grown a foot, and you've been a ghost, Leo countered. He didn't say it with malice, just facts. Julian winced slightly. I thought staying away was the right thing. She said she needed space. I gave her the whole universe. She didn't want the universe, Leo said, leading him toward the kitchen. She just wanted to know you'd fight for the space. They entered the kitchen. The kettle began to whistle, a low, rising tone. Leo silenced it instantly. He poured the water over the tea leaves, the smell of Earl Grey rising in the steam. You planned this, Julian said, looking at the 2 cups set out on the table. I'm tired of watching her watch TV alone, Leo admitted, leaning against the counter. I saw you at the hardware store last week. You looked miserable. Julian managed a half smile. I was buying paint for a room I don't use. Yeah, miserable covers it. She's miserable too, Leo said. She just hides it under paperwork. Julian ran a hand through his damp hair. What if she throws me out? Then you leave, Leo shrugged. But at least you'll know. And she'll know you tried? Julian looked toward the living room archway. I never stopped caring, Leo. You know that, right? I know, Leo said. No, go tell her. Leo grabbed his jacket from the hook. I'm going to the library. I'll be gone a few hours. You're leaving. Julian looked panicked. You don't need a chaperone. You need to talk. Leo opened the back door. Don't mess this up, Julian. With the click of the latch, Leo was gone. Julian stood alone in the kitchen. The house felt charged, electric with the potential for disaster or salvation. He picked up the tray, tea, biscotti, and the flowers, and walked softly into the living room. He set the tray on the coffee table. The clink of china against wood was the loudest sound in the world. Elena stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused at first. She blinked at the ceiling, then turned her head. She saw the steam rising from the cups. She saw the flowers. Then, she saw him. Julian sat in the armchair across from her, hands clasped between his knees. Elena sat up sharply, the magazine sliding to the floor. She rubbed her eyes, sure she was still dreaming. "He ill," he said softly. How did you get in?" Her voice was thick with sleep and confusion. "Leo," Julian admitted. "He let me in. He made the tea." Elena looked around the room. "Where is he?" "He went to the library. Said we needed to talk." Elena stared at him. The initial shock began to fade, replaced by a sudden, sharp ache in her chest. It was the ache of a wound that hadn't quite healed. "You shouldn't be here." "I know," Julian said. "I told myself that every day for 3 years. I told myself you were better off. That my life was too chaotic and yours was too structured, and we were just gonna hurt each other." "We did hurt each other," Elena said, pulling her cardigan tighter around herself. "I know," Julian repeated. But the silence hurt more. "Did it hurt you?" Elena looked at the steam curling off the tea. She wanted to be angry. She wanted to tell him to leave, to protect the fragile peace she had built. But the peace was lonely. "Yes," she whispered. It was quiet. Too quiet. "I didn't bring a grand speech," Julian said, leaning forward. "I just brought myself. And some flowers Leo said you wouldn't hate." Elena looked at the wildflowers. They were messy, colorful, imperfect. "They're beautiful," she admitted. "I miss my best friend Elena," Julian said, his voice cracking slightly. "I miss the way you laugh at bad movies. I miss the way you argue about which route is faster. I miss you." Elena felt tears prick her eyes. She had spent so long being the strong one, the one who kept the household running, the one who didn't need anyone. "I'm tired, Julian," she said, her voice trembling. "I'm so tired of doing this alone." "Then don't," he said. He reached across the gap between them, palm up, an invitation. "Let me help carry it. Even if it's just the groceries. Even if it's just listening." Elena looked at his hand. It was a risk. Opening the door again meant risking the draft. But the house was so cold already. Slowly, she reached out and placed her hand in his. His grip was warm, solid, familiar. "The tea is going to get cold," she said, a small, genuine smile breaking through. "Then we better drink it." Julian smiled back. Hours later, the rain had stopped, leaving the world outside scrubbed clean and smelling of wet pavement and earth. The front door opened, and Leo walked in, shaking out his umbrella. He paused in the hallway. He heard it, a sound that had been missing from the walls for years. Laughter. Genuine, belly-deep laughter. He peeked into the living room. The lamps were on now, casting a golden glow. The tea tray was empty. Julian was sitting on the floor near the couch, gesturing wildly as he told a story, and Elena was curled up on the sofa, clutching a cushion, laughing so hard she was wiping tears from her eyes. She looked 10 years younger. She looked alive. Elena spotted Leo in the doorway. She straightened up, composing herself, but the glow didn't leave her face. "You," she said, pointing a finger at him, though her eyes were shining. "For what?" Leo feigned innocence, leaning against the doorframe. "Making tea." "For conspiracy," Julian added, grinning. "And for being right." Leo felt a warmth spread through his chest that had nothing to do with the heating system. Someone had to do it. "Thank you," Elena said softly. She wasn't laughing now. She looked at her son with a fierceness that took his breath away. "Thank you, Leo." "Yeah, well," Leo rubbed the back of his neck, suddenly shy. "Don't get used to it. I'm not making tea every day. I'll handle the tea from now on," Julian promised, standing up. "I'm going to my room," Leo said, turning toward the stairs. "I've got homework. You two figure it out." "We will," Julian said. Leo climbed the stairs, the sound of their quiet conversation resuming below him. He went into his room and closed the door, falling back onto his bed. The house didn't feel silent anymore. It felt full. It felt like a home again. Downstairs, Elena watched Julian pour the last of the tea. She thought about the years she had wasted waiting for the perfect moment, waiting to be ready, waiting for the fear to subside. She realized now that the perfect moment didn't exist. There was only this moment, messy, unexpected, and brought about by a teenage boy who simply wanted his mother to smile again. She took the cup from Julian, their fingers brushing. "So," she said, "Tomorrow?" "Tomorrow," Julian agreed, and the day after that. Outside the clouds broke, revealing a sliver of moon. The storm had passed, and inside, for the first time in a long time, the silence was not an absence of noise, but a presence of peace.